Welcome everyone to the Redesigning School Counseling webinar for Renewal Schools. In this webinar we will be discussing activities. In today's agenda we'll be focusing on activities. We'll do a walkthrough of Meeting 5. We'll look at the tasks that are due from Meeting 5, after Meeting 5, and the rubric item for them. And then we'll also spend a lot of time on the online system. This, by the way, is my favorite part of the process. Everything that we've done up to now has been preparing for this step to make sure that we're selecting the best activities to impact achievement at your school. Through addressing the root causes that are influencing your priority goals and your non-priority goals. Okay, so let's just start out like we always do with a little review. We'll begin with RSC beliefs, and remember it's our belief that school counseling programs help students make sound choices in areas that impact academic success. So it's all about helping kids make good choices in areas that will make them successful in school and successful in whatever academic path they follow for after high school. So this is the school counseling pyramid. We believe that school counseling impacts achievement through sound guidance and counseling programs that help kids make good choices. And as a result of those choices, students' achievement goes up. Then when we are designing the school counseling program, we're just going to work that pyramid backwards. So we started out at the beginning of the year looking at what are our school's achievement goals in our school improvement plan. Then we said, okay, what choices do kids have to make in order for our school to reach those goals? And now we're designing a guidance and counseling program that will help kids make those choices. So this is the process we've been using. The very first step we did was to get ready. We put together a steering team, we collected data, we did some self-studies, and we convened an advisory council. Then as a renewal school, we went to update our vision statement. We did that in August. And then we updated our student choice goals. We expanded our resources and we established priority goals. And then at our last meeting, we worked to figure out why aren't kids making the choices that we want them to make in those priority goals areas. And we identified those as our root causes. So our root causes are the areas that are influencing or impacting the priority goals. The root causes are probably something that have to do with guidance. If students don't have the knowledge or the information that they need to make the choices that we want them to make in our priority goals, or they have a social personal issue that's getting in the way, or maybe we just haven't even given them the opportunity to reach those goals. Okay, so once we know why the kids aren't making those choices, then today we're going to look at what are we going to do about it. So if kids aren't making the right choices because they don't have information, then how are we going to get kids that information? If they're not making the targeted choice because they don't have opportunities, then how are we going to give them those opportunities? So today we'll be looking at how do we pick key high-leverage guidance activities, counseling activities, advocacy, and management activities in order to address those root causes. Then, after we know what the activities are, second semester we'll work as a school counseling department to prepare for those activities. So we'll write lesson plans, we'll develop a program calendar, we'll also develop individual calendars and come up with a budget for our school counseling program. Okay, so let's see if anyone has questions. I do see one hand up, and fortunately I can't get that. Oh, I guess that's not. That's not. Okay, that's an old question. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so this month's activity is looking, as we said, at activities. So one of the things that we will be doing in preparation for this activity is we'll send another pre-meeting mailing to the Advisory Council to help them start thinking about activities before they get to your meeting. So let's look at what that pre-meeting email looks like. And here it is. And you can see you can put your school's letterhead at the top, and we're thanking them for participating and telling them the date, the time, location for the next meeting. And then we're doing a little reviewing. We're saying, okay, we've identified our priority goals and our root causes. So where it's red here, you'll be filling that in. So first priority goal is to increase the percentage of students who, let's say, complete a 4-year high school course plan. That's the priority goal. And then we've listed the root causes. We don't have a structure for a 4-year high school course plan. We don't have individual appointments with students where we talk about 4-year high school course plan. We don't have classroom guidance where we're teaching students how to do a 4-year course plan. So we've identified all of the root causes. So this is review. This is what they did 2 meetings ago, and then this is what your advisory council talked about at the last meeting. So now we're saying, moving on, at our next meeting, we're going to be brainstorming activities that we might implement to address those root causes. And we're inviting people to think about activities before they come to your meeting. So step 1 is we're asking them to think about guidance, counseling, and advocacy activities that we might implement to help us reach our priority goals. These activities should include, and then the different types of school counseling activities, and again, another little definition of them. Step 2, use the 2 activity search tools provided by the American Student Achievement Institute to search for activities implemented by others that we might replicate to address our priority goals. So we've given them 2 links. The first link is to a database of school counseling activities that they could search, and the second link is a link to community activities that are implemented by community organizations, public library, youth service organizations, faith-based organizations, businesses. They're guidance activities that are community-based. So we're just asking them to kind of explore these things, to look at the root causes, and then explore different activities and bring any ideas that they have to the next meeting. So let's look at those these 2 search tools. So this is the school counseling activity search tool. So let's say that one of my priority goals is that students choose to participate in a career interest inventory. So I can type in here the words career interest, and if I want to further narrow it down, I can say I just want to see career interest inventories, career interest activities that are being done with 8th graders or with 10th graders. Or maybe I'm really focusing on Hispanic students. So I want to see, is anybody doing career interest inventories with Hispanic students? Or I could say I just want to see group counseling activities or classroom guidance activities or individual guidance activities. I may want to see only activities that deal with careers. Or if this had been more broad, you could narrow it down here. The other thing I can do is, let's say I know that ABC Middle School was the middle school of the year for the state or the country. I could put in here, just show me activities that ABC Middle School are doing. And I could actually leave all the rest of this blank and just put in ABC Middle School there to see all the activities that ABC Middle School are doing. And then the other thing I could do is, maybe I know that Jane Smith is a really wonderful counselor, and I want to see what Jane is doing. I could type in all or part of Jane's name, leave everything else blank, and then all of Jane's activities will come up. So I'm going to leave everything, in this case, pretty general. I'm just going to put in career interest and do a search, and we'll see that there are 6 activities in this school counseling database that come up. Once I see them, I can see here's one that's being done at Zionsville West Middle School. It's the Career Interest Assessment Drive Your Life. I can view the full lesson plan. This will give me the procedure and materials and everything that was used to deliver this guidance lesson. I can view the guidance lesson report, or if once I've looked at these things, if I really like this activity, instead of typing it all over into my school counseling program, I can just say import into my school's lesson plans. And that will take everything that this other counselor wrote and import that into your school counseling program and give a reference to the initial author of that lesson plan. So this kind of helps you save a lot of editing and a lot of typing. You can just import activities if you like them. So, so let's say that we really like this activity. I'm going to go back and see if Julie has entered any other activities. So I'm going to return to the search option, and this time I'm going to make this one be blank, and under the person's name I'm just going to put in, and I actually don't know that anything will pop up with this one, but there are. Julie has put in 5 different lesson plans, and so I could pull up those to see the work that they're doing at their school. One other thing that you might find interesting, some schools want to make sure that they have met all of the guidance indicators for either Ask a Ramp or Indiana Gold Star. And in fact, in Indiana Gold Star, you're required to meet all of the indicators for the Indiana Gold Star Award. But let's say that I'm one of the indicators, I don't have any idea of what I'm going to do to address that indicator. So when I do that, I can click Select on the guidance indicators, and this is being really slow, but at any rate, a list of all the guidance indicators will pop up here, and you can just click the ones that you want, and then do a search for activities that address, excuse me, excuse me, that address that guidance indicator. So, okay, so that is the lesson plan, guidance lesson plan search, the school counseling lesson plan search. Let's say that somebody on your advisory council says, you know, our organization could help out with that. Maybe they're the public library. What could they do? So if I go to the other link that's listed in that memo, this is activities that is an activity database for guidance activities, but that are being implemented by community organizations that are participating in the College Success Coalition initiative that we facilitate on behalf of Learn More Indiana. And it just is a good way to give other organizations ideas of how they can help you implement guidance activities for your kids. So let's say that, and again it works the same way. I can say, show me, I could type in here career interest. I could say guidance activities that are focused on parents and helping them provide guidance for their kids, or for elementary students or high school students. I could focus on a specific student choice. Here's some targeted student choices that community groups focus on. I could also, this is probably my favorite way to search, is to search for the organization type. So let's say I'm a public library and I want to see, you know, what are other libraries doing to help out their school counselors? So I could click public library. I could also say, I don't have a lot of time, so show me what libraries are doing that don't take a lot of time and energy. I could say only show me activities that have data behind them and they're proven. And then, you know, you can do 5 activities per page or more. So I'm just going to search for public library, And there are, oh my gosh, there are 78 activities that public libraries across the state of Indiana are implementing to help their school counselors. So Harrison County Public Library, Putnam County Public Library, Earl Park Public Library. So again, you can look through these or maybe even narrow down the search and put in career interests to see what are these public libraries doing to help students master the guidance indicators related to career interests. So again, when we first talked about guidance activities, we talked about how it doesn't have to be the school counselor that implements all the guidance activities. This would give you a way to think about how could you incorporate others in delivering part of your school counseling program. It may be that these activities happen in the public library. It may also be that the librarian comes to your school to implement these activities as classroom guidance activities in your building for every student in your building. So lots of different ways to get different folks involved in delivering your guidance program. Okay, so back to the letter. This is the memo. Basically, the memo is just reminding people that we have priority goals and root causes, and then we're asking them to do a little bit of playing around with searching for activities before they get to your meeting. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Okay, and then that brings us to the walkthrough. So I'm going to do the walkthrough a little differently. I'm just going to, let's see, let's go to the, I'm going to go to the steering team home, and I'm going to, instead of just starting out with the PowerPoint like we normally do, I'm going to actually go through the process because there's a lot of steps in selecting the most appropriate activities to address your root causes, and then there's some checks that we're going to put in to just make sure that your activities are what you want them to be. So excuse me, I'm going to click on the RSC Process tab, and I'll check, and I am in the renewal process. I'm going to scroll down to update your activities. So this is the activity for December and or January. Okay, so if we just go through in order, the first thing you're doing is watching the webcast, which is what we're recording right now. Then here's the memo to the advisory council members. So once you've sent that out, you'll check off that. Then this is really important. We're going to enter your current program activities. So to do that, you would click the Enter button, scroll down, and you can see I have some activities already in here. The first time you do this, there'll be nothing in this section unless you, when you did this the first time, you entered all of your activities online. So to enter your program activity, I'm just going to click Enter, and here I'm entering an activity title, a description, the type of activity, and then select program goals. When I click on this, that's going to enter or give you a pop-up that is all of the program goals that you've already entered. So hopefully it's clicking that you can't enter activities until you've got your program goals in, because this is where we're going to connect activities and goals. So once I enter my activities, if that's going to help students plan to submit a free application for federal student aid, I just click that. Okay, so that's linking your activities with goals. That's a really important step. And then we also want to link your activities, each of your activities, with any guidance indicators that activity is helping to address. So I'm going to click Guidance Indicators, and here is that menu of all of the indicators. So I'm just going to go through and say, okay, this would help students master this indicator and that indicator and this indicator. And then just do that, and that will connect each of your activities to the guidance indicators. Okay, then the next thing we're doing is checking all of the grade levels that this activity addresses, and any student groups that this activity specifically targets. I think for a lot of your activities, you'll probably click all students, but with both the Ask a Ramp and the Indiana Gold Star Awards, your program has to address guidance gaps. So that would mean that you are addressing, you are incorporating some activities that are specifically focused on free and reduced lunch students, or Hispanic students, or your or your limited English students. So just click, whichever student group the targeted activity is addressing. And again, at least one of your activities has to be a guidance closing the gaps activity. And the way you indicate it's a closing the gap activity is by checking the student group in the activity that activity targets. Then the next thing we're doing is addressing what month the activity is going to happen in. This will allow the computer to create an annual calendar for you. And then who's responsible for implementing that activity, or let me word that differently, who's responsible for making sure that the activity is implemented. It may be implemented by someone else, but this person is just the person who's responsible for making sure that it happens. So if I do this drop-down arrow, you're going to end up with the names of your steering team members, but it may not be your steering team members that's going to implement the activity. It may be Jane Doe at the public library. So you can just enter Jane Doe, or if you want to remind yourself, that she's outside your school, you can just put that kind of a descriptor after her name. Okay, also notice that once you get the activities in, if you decide to delete an activity, you have a delete button here that you can get rid of an activity as well. Okay, so let's go back. And let's say all of our activities are entered. So now I have entered my current activities. And the next thing I want to do is print a program goals crosswalk. This is a report that you're going to use during the meeting. And let me just open up. Notice you don't have to enter anything. All the information for that crosswalk is coming from the activities entry that you did. So I'm going to open up the crosswalk. Here's the report. And you can see that it's listed the priority goals and then the activities that are going to help kids make that choice. So the first one, plan to submit a free FAFSA next year. It's a priority goal for 11th graders, and here's the activity that we're going to do to help kids make that choice. And then here's my second priority goal. Here's the activity to help kids make that choice. But you'll notice here that in some of the non-priority goal areas, I have a goal to discuss future plans with their school counselors, and there's no activities associated with that. So if I have one of these red flags in this report, what that's saying to you is it's asking some questions. How in the world could we expect students to do that, to reach that goal, if we're not implementing any activities to help kids reach that goal? So this would be a clue to me to go back and enter an activity. Or let's say that I get to this point and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time to do one more thing. I can't possibly add another activity. So if that's the case, then we want to go back to the goals page and delete this goal. No use having a goal if you're not going to do anything to help kids reach that goal. So if you get one of these issues, you can either add an activity or delete the goal. Your choice, whatever makes the most sense for you. Okay, that's that. So let's go back. So that is the program goals crosswalk. The next thing I'm going to check is the activities crosswalk. So I'm going to open up that report. This is just another check. Don't have to enter anything. Everything we did in the activities entry is pulled into this report. So this is telling me that I have an activity called AP Dual Credit Recruitment Federal Lunch Program, and I'm doing this activity, but I don't have any goals that the activity is associated with. So why am I doing that activity if it's not addressing any of my goals? It might be that a lot of the activities that you just have always done historically really aren't associated with any of your goals, and you might then have the question, well, why am I doing those activities? And if you can't come up with a good reason, then get rid of those activities. Save yourself some time. It also may be that when you see this activity and it's not associated with any goal, it might be that you just forgot to associate it. You could go back and clean that up, or maybe you forgot a goal. So maybe one of your goals in this case was really to increase the percentage of students who are choosing to enroll in AP and dual credit courses, and you just forgot to enter that goal into your program. So if that's the case, just go back to the goals section, enter that goal, then go to the activity and associate it with that goal, and you'll be all set. So okay, so that's the activities crosswalk. Okay. Then we put a couple of links in here for you as steps to explore the school counseling lesson plans. We've already looked at that. This icon goes directly to that page. And then also explore community organization activities. That icon would go right to the College Success Coalition page where people can explore community activities. Then we're going to conduct the advisory council meeting. I'll show you that in a sec. And then after the advisory council meeting, one of the things we also want to do is to check the student group crosswalk. I'm going to go in and open that report, and I can see I don't have any activities that are targeting males. Maybe that's by plan. No activities that are targeting females, blacks, Asians, whites, Hispanics, Native Americans, multiracial, but I do have an activity that's targeting my free and reduced lunch student. So I do have a gap group identified. It's the free and reduced lunch kids, and I have an activity in place to help impact the choices that the free and reduced lunch kids are making. So so it's okay to not have associated activities with all of these student groups but one. We need to make sure for the ASCA ramp and for the Gold Star, Indiana Gold Star, that at least one gap group is identified this way. So, and it's good for kids. You know, you're going to experience gaps in your school. Let's close those gaps. Okay. So that brings us down to, I guess I can check the rest of these off. That was the GAPS crosswalk. And now I want to, the last thing to check is the guidance standards crosswalk. I'm going to go there. And what this is it's listing all of the indicators that are aligned with the RAMP standards and the Indiana Gold Star standards. The indicator numbers, this is the grade level that indicator was originally designed for. The second number is the domain. 1 is academic, 2 is career, and 3 is personal social. And then the last number is the number within that age group or grade level group and that domain. So, okay, so if it's important to me to address all of the indicators, all of the ASCA standards, or all of the Indiana Gold Star standards, I need to make sure that there are no red flags on this page. ASCA does not require that schools address all of the ASCA national standards. They would rather for schools to prioritize, like we have with RSC, where the biggest needs are, and then to implement activities around the biggest needs. Indiana, on the other hand, does want schools to implement activities that address each of the indicators. In Indiana, it's felt that those indicators are appropriate for every student in the state. And so the belief is, just like we want students to master all math standards that are appropriate for 8th graders, we want students to master all of the indicators that are appropriate for 8th graders. So if you are an Indiana school seeking Gold Star, you don't want any of these red flags. So if they come up, then you know, oh, we don't have an activity for this first indicator, and we need to go back, enter an activity, and then associate it with this indicator. Okay, so and then when indicators, I don't know if there's even examples in this one. Yeah, so here's one where there is an activity that addresses this indicator, and you can just see that the activity name is listed here. Okay, that's the indicator check, and so that's the guidance standards crosswalk. And then the last thing to do then, or you probably have been doing it all through these steps, is to update your program activities to make sure that all those crosswalks are the way you want them to be. And this would be then the activities that you're going to implement next school year to address your goals and the guidance standards, student group. So it's the activities exactly the way you want them for next year. And then finally enter the meeting minutes and the rubric items. Okay, so I'm going to uncheck all these real quickly so they don't get saved by mistake. Okay, and let's go back. And now let's look at the PowerPoint presentation for this month. And we've talked about a lot of this, so I'm just going to kind of fly through it. Okay, so we're with your advisory council, and we're talking to them about, and I need to update the slide. This slide will be updated to say that we're looking at activities this month. So then we're starting with the review, and same review that we just talked about earlier in this webinar. And we're also helping people to remember that there's products that come out of each of these discussions. We now have 5 of the 6 products that are finished, and the last product then is the list of activities that we're going to do next year. So then we're looking at this month again. Our focus for this month is activities. And the first thing we want to do is review activity types. So we're reminding people that there are 4 different types of school counseling activities: guidance, counseling, advocacy, and management. And we're reviewing each one of them. So guidance activities will help students learn or explore or establish things. And then also the guidance activities may be implemented by setting. And I see the tabs didn't hold here. I'll fix that and re-upload it so that when you download it, there's tabs in here. But we're reminding people that activities can be implemented by parents, they can be implemented by educators, counselors, teacher advisors, classroom teachers, and also community organizations. It doesn't have to be just school counselors for guidance activities. We're also reminding people that guidance activities can happen in a classroom. They can happen with a pull-out of students into a small group, or they can happen one-on-one. There's some guidance activities that it makes sense to repeat individually with every student in the building as you're talking to them about the choices that they're making. Okay, then we're reviewing counseling activities, reminding people again that Level 1 counseling activities, which are activities where professionals are using counseling techniques. Those are limited to a licensed professional, but there are other things that are educational based that a trained non-professional like a community mentor or a peer helper in a school can do. And then level 3 are interventions that any caring adult can do, things like moving a student's seat or doing a homework log or whatever. It doesn't require any training and confidentiality or referrals to do that type of intervention. Also reminding people that counseling can happen in a group setting or individual. So the third type of school counseling activity is advocacy activities. We can advocate to change the learning environment for an individual student or a group of students. Here's some examples of advocacy activities. And then the fourth type of school counseling activity is management activities, things that happen behind the scenes so that we can do guidance, counseling, and advocacy. So developing a guidance lesson or doing professional development or collecting data or networking. Those are all management activities. And then finally, reminding people that while there are 4 types of school counseling activities, there is also non-program activities, and anything that is not a guidance, counseling, advocacy, or management activity is most likely a non-program activity. And then we've listed some examples there. Okay, and then the next thing we want to review is the activity focus. And again, we're reminding people here that this all started out with a goal, and then we looked at root causes for that goal, and now we want to put in activities to address those root causes. So there may be one goal, 3 root causes, and then a bunch of activities to help address those root causes. Okay, and that brings us up to today's tasks. So today's questions are, what activities should we implement to address the root causes that are interfering with our program goals? And then who will implement those activities? So key question number 1, do we currently have sufficient activities to impact our priority goals? If not, do we need to delete the goal? Do we need to revise a current activity to make it more robust or more frequent? Or do we need to add a new activity? So we're going to look at each priority goal and examine the activities to ask ourselves, do we have activities that are sufficient to impact this goal? Question 2 is the same question, but this time instead of looking at our priority goals, we're going to look at our non-priority goals. Do we have the right activities to impact the non-priority goals? And again, if not, do we need to get rid of one of the goals, or do we need to revise our current activities, make them more robust, more frequent, with a broader range of students, somehow revise current activities, or do we need to add new activities? And then finally, does each of our school counseling activities support at least one of our program goals? So if we come up with an activity after you've done all of your work, if you're still coming up with an activity that doesn't support a program goal, then we're asking the advisory council, do we need to get rid of the activity, or is there a goal that we should be adding? Okay, so the first step is to identify activities then. The next step is to identify activities, and this is also called the priority goals crosswalk. We're going to pull up each priority goal and examine the activities that go with it. So, priority goal number 1, and the priority goal you'll add up here. So our priority goal number 1 is to increase the percentage of students who, say, complete a 4-year high school course plan. Here are our root causes, why we think kids aren't doing that. And then on the next slide, we're saying, okay, here are all of the activities that we currently have in place for this, this priority goal. And what you'll have here is you will have printed for your advisory council copies of the goals crosswalk report, what we just pulled up and looked at a little earlier. So we're going to give them a copy of that, and then they'll see, here's the goal, and here's the goal, and here are the activities that are associated with that goal. And then we're asking them, are there any activities that should be omitted because they're not really doing a good job of addressing this goal? Or are there activities that should be revised? And so you'll talk through that up for a little bit. And then on the next slide, we're saying, are there activities that need to be added? And if so, and the answer may be no. They may say, man, all of those activities we're already doing, that's fine. If we just keep, doing the same old, that's going to do it. That will help kids make the choice we want them to make. But they may say, you know what, we need to do something differently. Let's brainstorm what we could also do to help kids make that choice. So this is a poster. As people come up with ideas, you'll jot that in the first column, and then you'd be saying, okay, what grade level are we going to do this activity with? You know, maybe it's going to be 8th graders. What student group? Maybe all. And then, and so to the left of that heavy black line, you'll just brainstorm all the possible activities first. And then after you're finished with your brainstorm, you'll go back and say, okay, is this something that we're going to add for next year? Or is this something that we're going to park for a future year? So you'll probably have more activities here than you could possibly do. So you'll need to go through and really look at which activities are going to have the biggest bang for the buck, and then check off the ones that you're going to add to your school counseling curriculum for the coming year. So then you would just replicate those slides for each of your priority goals. So you'd come back and say, okay, here's priority goal number 2. And then at the top of this slide, it would say what that priority goal was. You'd add all the root crosses for priority goal 2 in. And then you'd go to the crosswalk report, look at priority goal 2, ask if anything should be omitted or revised. And then if you need to add activities for that priority goal, jot them in and do this chart, a different chart. You need a second poster for this priority goal. So you're going to have one of these posters for each of your priority goals. Okay, before you present this presentation, take out this slide, the hot pink slide. And then after we've looked at your priority goals, we want to, and here's a typo, I'm just going to go ahead and fix this right now. So you see this should say non-priority goals crosswalk. Now we're going to look at key non-priority goals. So we're telling folks that your steering team has flagged non-priority goals that you'd still like to implement a little bit more than you currently are in the coming year. So on this goals crosswalk in the non-priority goals section, you will have asterisked the non-priority goals that you want to beef up a little bit. So again, you're asking, are there activities that should be omitted or revised? And then if on the next slide we're saying, okay, for these non-priority goals that we flagged that we want to beef up a little bit, what are possible new activities that we could do? And then for each of the flagged non-priority goals that you want to beef up just a little bit, it's not, these are not your big priority goals, but they're just the non-priority goals that you want to hit a little bit harder. You're going to go back and replicate those 3 slides for each of the non-priority goals that you're focusing on. Okay, then the next thing you're doing through your advisory council is you're giving them a copy of the activity crosswalk report, and you're saying, okay, we've got some activities that don't support any of our goals, and we're thinking about taking them out. What do you think about that? And if they say, yes, then, get rid of them. Or they may say, let's keep that in because there's some goals that you had in mind when you put on that counselor back to school lunch. What were those goals? What were you trying to accomplish? And once you answer that question, then you can go back and enter those as goals. Okay, then, so as you can see, as you're entering the activities, there's a lot of checks in here because we want to make sure that your activities are doing exactly what you want them to do. You've got enough activities and robust activities to impact your goals. You've gotten rid of activities that aren't really doing anything that you want them to be doing. You've crosswalked with standards. I mean, there's a lot of checks in here. So here are the final checks. This is an incredibly important check. We want to make sure that you're not overextending yourself. It's so easy to when you're talking about this during this meeting to say, oh yeah, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that. This is a point where we want you to pause and think, do I really have the time to do all those things? If you are overextending yourself, you'll do everything in a mediocre way instead of doing a few things really well. And we think it's much more productive to do a few things well. If you get to this slide and you're feeling overwhelmed and tense and oh my gosh, there's no way, then you need to have an honest conversation with your advisory council about deleting some of your goals. Delete the goal and delete the activities. The one thing I'd be careful about here is sometimes schools will delete activities and not delete the associated goal. And what happens is there's so few activities to address that goal that the goal doesn't get reached, and it's just frustrating everybody. So if you're going to pull back here, I would delete goals and then the activities that went with those goals. Okay, but this is your final time to think, am I overextending myself? And then to just be upfront with your advisory council and say, with all the non-program tasks that we have, or with all the kids that have this personal or social issue, there's no way I can do all this, and let's go back and take out some of these goals. Okay. Then the other thing we want to check is, in reality, do you have the resources that you need? Do you have the funding that you need to pull off all these activities? Do you have, the ratio? Again, that's a time issue. Do you have the skill that you need? It might be that, you need to, you've said that you're going to address implement all these activities to address bullying, but you don't really have the skills to go with that. You may need to then drop that out because you don't have the skill. Or this may be a last chance for you to say, to do this well, I really need to go get some training in helping reduce bullying. So it may be that you need technology. And also it may be that you don't have the perceptions of the counselors, and that's something that you need to go back and add some activities about what kids think about their school counselors, because they're not going to engage in the activities if they're if they don't have a high opinion of their counselors. Okay, so this is your last chance to say, oh man, I need more activities or more resources. And if you don't get the resources, if you don't have them, then go back and take out the goals that you can't reach because you don't have the resources you need. Okay, then this is one last check to make sure you're meeting everybody's outside expectations. So one of the things you want to look at is state laws or any district requirements. For example, in Indiana, it's a state law that there's a graduation plan beginning in 6th grade through 12th grade. You need to make sure that you have activities in place to address that. In Indiana, there's now law about bullying prevention instruction that must happen in schools. So if none of your activities are dealing with bullying prevention, you need to go back and add activities and goals around those areas. Then for Ask a Ramp, does at least one activity address a specific student group? You can go to the student group crosswalk to just verify that. And for ASCA, at least one of your activities has to be around group counseling. So we need to make sure that you have at least one group counseling activity in there. So then for Gold Star, if you're an Indiana school, we're looking at addressing at least one activity must address a specific student group, involve group counseling. You need to have at least 3 academic guidance activities, at least 3 career guidance activities, and at least 3 personal social guidance activities. And you need to have activities that address each of the Indiana student standards for guidance. And the indicator crosswalk will help you determine if you've got that. So you can see a lot of this, again, it's about designing activities, but then checking to see if do you have the right activities to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Okay, and then finally, the last thing to talk about with your advisory council is, can everybody live with those activities? And can you publicly support the activities as the ones that your school counseling program will implement? And then that's the end. So one last thing, let's see. I want to go back to the other PowerPoint, and let's look at the tasks for this year, for this time. So on your submissions, if you are an Indiana school, One of the things that we need to, that you'll end up submitting, actually you don't, it's just there, but the reviewers will open it up and look at it. They will look at the guidance standards crosswalk, and they'll make sure that there are no red flags in that crosswalk, that there's an activity, at least one activity for each of the student standards that are listed there. This says this is not available for the 2013 renewal schools, but you'll be renewing in 2014, so it is there for you guys. Okay, then for all schools on program activities, we need to make sure that there's at least one, these are the rubric items, there's at least one advocacy activity present, there's at least one management activity present, the activity title and the program are present, the description describes the activity in a clear and concise terms, and the description includes which students will be participating. So on your activities, when the reviewers go in, they'll be looking for those things. And then finally, on your minutes, same rubric items as the first 4 meetings. So, okay, that's it. So let me open up and see if anyone has questions. And if you have questions, stick a hand up and we'll get those answered real quickly. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Again, this presentation will be posted as the first step as you're preparing for meeting 5, so you can go back and look at that when you're ready. That sounds good. One other thing I meant to mention earlier, and I'll mention now for everyone, our statewide conference is open to school counselors, and we're running several tracks through the conference for counselors. The date this year is January 28th. It's in Indianapolis. There are 60 breakout sessions, and several of them have to do with guiding students for post-secondary success, a lot with APIB and dual credit, a lot with using all of Learn More's resources for guidance, how to use the lesson plans and the PowerPoint presentations, the presentations that Learn More has presented, how to join the College Success Coalition. There really is probably about a third of this conference is about student guidance, and then the other 2/3 are about academic achievement. So the 60 breakout sessions, the keynote is Katie Haycock, who is the founder and head of the Education Trust in Washington, D.C., who the Ed Trust is probably the premier organization that advocates for students in our country. They're just amazing. Katie Haycock is amazing. So there's also funding available if you are in a county that is part of the College Success Coalition. They have funding available for free registration. So if you go to our website /CSC College Success Coalition, that will pull up all the counties, and then you can just send them a message to ask for that free registration if you're interested, or call our office and we can help you with that too. We had a lot of school counselors there last year. We do recognize the Gold Star schools. They're in your name badge. You get a little ribbon that says Gold Star if you're from a Gold Star school. So, and there's a lot of heavy programming for school counseling that all aligns with Gold Star and Redesigning School Counseling. The other thing that might be interesting at that conference is we're also bringing in community groups that do guidance as community organizations, and that gives school counselors a chance to network with those organizations as well, which I think is pretty cool. So, okay, so that's it for this time, and just remember that you make a difference in the lives of young people. And everyone have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Our next training, we skipped January. Our next training is the first, I think it is the first Tuesday in February 4th. So we'll see everybody then.